So in today's video, I'm going to be pricing up your guys' FC25 teams. So between now and the 6th of October, I'm going to be uploading a daily free eafc25 trading guide. This will include everything to do on the web app to make as many coins as possible with both trading and investing. I'll be talking about the full release, what we expect to see regarding the market, and there'll also be a daily updated investing guide, all in there, updated every day for free. No gimmicks whatsoever, all you gotta do is click on the Google Docs link on the top link of the description. So in today's video, we are going to be going through all of your guys' FC25 teams. I've gone through every single team that was sent to me, meaning I've got 44 squads which I've gone and priced up. In this video, I'll be going through some players individually that I haven't gone through in previous videos, so if I don't go through a very popular player and talk about their price individually, it's probably because they're covered in the last one. If you guys would like to go and send me your squads, I'll probably do one more of these before the next FIFA or next FC25. Then all you need to do is go onto Google, go and type in easysbc.io. You then want to head over to this site. You then want to go and click on Squad Builder. You then want to go and build your squad. Again, for example, let's say we want to go and use the likes of Williams. You then want to go and press on share and then copy. And then you can either go and send it to me via email or you can go and send me your teams via Twitter. Now, the only squads that I haven't included that have been sent to me in the last, I guess, probably 48 hours is people who didn't send me the links and just sent me the photos, because alternating between, being on the actual website and the photos just would have messed up the, the fluidity of the video. So, before we do start as well, we are going to go and just talk about a few players that I guess I've had second looks and you guys talked about in the comment section. Again, if you guys don't agree with any of the prices, or you just want to, I guess, talk about the price of the players and so on, do feel free to do so, because we might go and address it in a future video like we are now. So the players we're just going to go and talk about is going to be Gyökeres. Now, Gyökeres was generally one of the most popular players to be in your guys' starter teams, and I had a little bit more of a look into it, because of course I priced him at 50k. And that was going off of the logic that, Ronaldo was 60k, so I thought, well, do you know what, he's got a way better card than Ronaldo, but arguably worse links. But I can add a little bit more of a look into it, and I think he's actually quite comparable to Kanjani. Because if we look at Kanjani's card, she had 91 pace, 87 physical, 82 shooting, 5-star weak foot, 4-star skills. Quite a comparable card to the likes of Gyökeres with high physical, pace and shooting, with 5-star weak foot but only 3-star skills. And she came in at the beginning of the game at 15k. Now, she was arguably completely unlinkable apart from, apart from, I think she had one club link, and then obviously her league was pretty decent with the La Liga F. I'd definitely say Gyökeres is a lot more linkable in terms of Sporting CP having a lot of strong links, but maybe he's not more linkable to the point where he's got a very similar card, but he's 50k, whereas she was only 15k. So I've actually repriced Gyökeres at 30k. I think 30k would be a lot more suitable than me pricing him at 50k. Another player's price that I think I'm going to slightly adjust on how much I was valuing them was Udogie. Udogie I was valuing around about 15k, and Udogie is actually quite a hard player to value, because it's quite rare in the Prem to have someone with high pace who's actually mid-rating. Normally what you get is someone with really high pace but low rating, someone with really high rating but low pace, and in fact to actually get anything slightly comparable to him, you have to go back 2 FIFAs. Last year there's nothing in between. It's like you either have Kyle Walker or a high-rated slow player or a low-rated fast player. So you have to kind of go back 2 FIFAs till you get back to the likes of Robertson and Cancelo. And I'd even argue Robertson and Cancelo might not be the most comparable in the world, because even these were quite high-rated. Well, we look at Cancelo from 2 FIFAs ago, and at the beginning of the game he was coming in at 30k. And we look at Robertson, and at the beginning of the game he was also coming in at 30k. So we're probably going to reprice Udogie from about 15k, probably up to about 25k. I think also with the Vicario, Van der Ven, and arguably Son, which we're going to be covering in today's video, I think his links are also going to be decent. Also, he's obviously got himself that Tonali link, which is nice. So yeah, just 2 players, I guess, between last video and this video we're going to go and change up. So, the squads we're covering in today's video should have a lot of different players compared to the last video. That's kind of the whole idea of why I split them, because one had a lot of similar teams, the other one didn't. So we start off with this team. Now, a lot of these players we've already priced in. Yanganong, 30k, we covered that in the last video. Breme, 20k, covered that in the last video. Tomori, 60k, covered that in the last video. Rabiot, 20k, covered that in the last video. And I think that's about it. Now, they've, since actually the last video and this one, they've actually put in their own pricing system. But I'll be honest with you, some of their pricing is just absolutely abysmal. Like Rabiot being 6k, I think it was 10k last year. and he's had a significant upgrade on last year. On top of that, a lot of the goalkeepers are pretty badly priced because I think they had really high minimum price ranges at the beginning. So let's go through a few of these players then. So we are going to start off and talk about Griezmann. Now Griezmann at the beginning of last year was 90k, but then actually managed to rise in a market that was dropping to 130k. This is because of the Finesse Plus meta that you guys are going to be very familiar with. So instead of him being 90k at the beginning of this year, I actually think it'll be about 120 because of how popular he was. And obviously French strikers are quite expensive. And how this person's built their team, they've used 2 French strikers. So yeah, 2 expensive players. Second player we are going to move on to is going to be Diani. She was 130k, went up to 170 because of course it's kind of like the woman meta we got at the beginning when everyone was using those high agility woman players. Well, she seemed to plateau at about 130. This year I think she's got a slightly better card. I think she might be like 1 rating lower, but she's got like better pace, and that's obviously the real rating in FIFA. So I'd price her in at about 130. The move to Rafael, I don't really see any improvement on his card last year. I'd say if anything, the AC Milan links have maybe been, well, they've been buffed and nerfed. For example, Tomori's been nerfed, but then you've got real top-end cards like Theo Hernandez has been buffed. And I think because Theo Hernandez has been buffed, Miang Ganong stayed the same. Maybe he increases a little bit, but yeah, I'd say 170k like it was last year. Again, depending on how meta Theo Hernandez and maybe the Milan players are, maybe up to 200k. We then move on to Guerreiro. Guerreiro was kind of holding about 40 last year. I do think her demand will probably be a little bit lower than it was last year, but her card is a little bit better, so I've priced her in at 40. Talking about players who demand should be lower, we're going to move on to Dembele. Now, obviously, Dembele was a perfect link to Mbappe. If I'm not wrong, he was kind of the only really good perfect chem link to Mbappe. Well, obviously, Mbappe's moved out the league, and there hasn't really been anyone who's replacing his demand in terms of players. Hakimi's had a downgrade this year. I think Marquinhos has had a downgrade this year. Donnarumma got an upgrade this year. And I guess Colomini got a downgrade this year. So, on the whole, the players that Dembele was used to link in have had a downgrade. He's still probably going to be the best French right wing. I mean, maybe arguably Diani, but they're going to be slightly different cards. Yeah, he's going to be better than Diaby. So, last year he was 250k, but I do think he'll be closer to 200, maybe 220. Then moved down to Batcha. Again, had a lot of demand at the beginning of last year because of the French woman. Krachawi's had a nice upgrade. She's now got 5-star skills, 5-star weak foot. I think she's also had a rating upgrade if I'm not wrong. But yeah, Batcha I still think would be 50k. If the women aren't demanded, then she'll probably be about 30. We then move on to Conde. And I found it very hard to believe that Conde was 150k because Conde is only 5'11". Which, you know, I'd always imagine would hinder his price. But actually he managed to hold 170k all at the beginning of last year. Card's basically the same as last year's one. So again, I think he can be 170k again. And this is probably one of the most expensive team we've looked at. In whole, this team is, I've got just over $1 million at 1,030,000. Main price coming in from Griezmann, Diani, Leao and Dembele. Like I think teams should be. Should always be quite top heavy because it's the most fun part. Now move on to team 2. Not so many new players here. Chiesa 80k, Pulisic 10k, Cole Palmer 15k, Cal Lockery 10k because of SBC fodder. Vicario, I think they're really underpriced. Bear in mind, Nick Pope was 10k at the beginning of last year. I think Vicario is easily going to be the same sort of demand. 10k there. Bastoni. Now, I'll be honest with you, Bastoni hasn't had that good of an upgrade. And last year, Bastoni was like 7k. He was SBC fodder. He has gained the intercept playstyle, which is good. But apart from that, he's really just had 2 pace. So I don't think he goes from like SBC fodder 5k up to 30k. I'd say maybe giving the benefit of doubt, he's 15k. But yeah, I'd say that's about it. So team 2 is coming in about 230k. Now moving on to team 3. A few new players we haven't covered. Simakan, not really going to be worth anything. Klaus, not really going to be worth anything, maybe a few K. João Cancelo, now he was sent to me in a fair few teams last week, but I didn't get around to covering them. João Cancelo last year, even for him playing at, what was it called? Even him playing at Barcelona, he was 40k, and him getting the hype of a move. I generally don't think he's much more than fodder. I think he's maybe 15k, which is about around about 7-8k more than fodder. Just because I don't think his links are too good. Obviously, yes, he's got a Neymar link. Yes, he's got a Ronaldo link, but I don't think those players are going to carry João Cancelo having very high demand. So I'd say he's about 15k. Diaby, as always, we've got down as about 40-50k, even though he's in the French league. Say Maxim was 20k last year, and I think he's a significantly, I guess, less demanded card than Diaby. So yeah, Diaby got down about 40k, Rabiot 20k. Ronaldo was 60k last year. I think the high round using Ronaldo's cards kind of dropped off a little bit. And I think, again, 40k is a fair presumption there. And then 10k for the Thuram. Apart from that, no new cards. Team 3, I think, is 170k. Moving on to team 4, few new cards here. Alaba, 30k last year, I think he's 30k this year. David Raya, I mean, maybe a few K at most. Modric, 10k SBC fodder. And Nkunku, very, very interesting card, because Nkunku last year was 80k, but that was off the back of him playing really well for RB Leipzig, and there was loads of hype, 5-star skills, 5-star week for I think about 50 promo cards. Obviously, then he moved to Chelsea, didn't really get many promo cards, and now he's received a -2 rating. He's taken a bit of hit on the stats. At the end of the day, though, he's still... Oh, I thought he'd done 5-star skills, 5-star week fit, I can't lie. But yeah, it was 80k last year. I think with the hit, I think he's about 40k, because I think a lot of the hype of him being 80k at the beginning of last year was because of how good his card was the year before that. Apart from that, no new players, and we... oh yeah, Jesus, I think he's about 15k, unless he fits the first EVA, and then he can be about 20 to 25k. In general, this team should be around about 260k. Now moving for this team is basically all discard apart from Nkunku, like I just covered. I don't really get the team, I can't lie, but each of their own, I guess. Mirino, not really going to be expensive, going to be about 7k. He's just 101 Premier League midfielder. He's going to be SBC fodder. Russo, maybe she's about 5k, 7k. She wasn't really worth anything last year. I don't think the same. I think the same this year. Havertz again shouldn't really be worth anything. So I think this team in general is probably only costing you about 20, 30k. And then you're going and adding in Nkunku, who's 40k in himself. So I've got 70k for the team, but you know, obviously that's heavily carried by Nkunku. The rest of those coins are probably coming in from Mirino. Maybe just again like a few k here and there, really. On to the next team. We've got a few players again. The read down the price on your Doogie. Van der Ven coming in at 50k. Hakimi. Now Hakimi last year, can I find my notes, was 70k, but I think he goes down to 50k. His card's slightly worse, and again, a lot of the PSG players have been nerfed, and Mbappe obviously isn't in the league. Vitinha, I don't think is anything really more than SBC fodder, which kind of sucks, because obviously he got himself a nice upgrade from like an 80 rated, and he's got himself a playstyle plus, but I just generally don't think he's... I don't think he's going to be much more than fodder. Kante, 20k. Son's quite an interesting card to cover. Didn't cover him in the last video. Son last year was only, I think it was 120k, which was really surprising because every year Son's like 300-400k. He's got that 5-star weak foot, 4-star skills. You know, so he's got a decent, nice card. But I think the problem with last year is only 120 because he only had the left mid and left wing utility. Well, they're saying that he's now had a new playstyle of striker. And I generally think that goes and takes Son from about 120k player all the way up to about 170k player. Just because, obviously, yeah, it's quite saturated left wings in the Prem last year. If I can think of them, you had Rashford, you had Son, you had Diaz, if I'm not wrong. Obviously, this year you're going to have Chiesa. So left wing in the Prem was quite saturated, whereas striker in the Prem wasn't so saturated. You just kind of went all the way from about a Darwin Núñez and, I don't know, players like that, all the way up to Haaland. And because there wasn't really anything in between, that's where Son would have fit in perfectly. So that's why I think, generally, without any sort of card change, I think he can go up at least 50, maybe even 60k, just with that added striker position utility. On top of that, new players we haven't covered, Donnarumma. This is where their pricing system's pretty scuffed. They say Donnarumma 100k. That's because he had a really high minimum price range. As soon as that price range was updated, he actually went down to, I think it was about 18k. Where it would be 25k minimum because he's an 89 rated, and that's just the floor of SBC fodder. But yeah, that's about it. So Team 6 should be about 520k. We then, yeah, this is me showing you where the pricing is a bit flawed. So they say 100k, and that's because you can see for the first week, obviously he had a really high min price range, but once he got a price range update, it went down to 17k. But Donnarumma would be 25k minimum due to the rating. Now move on to this very expensive team. Son, 170. Neymar, he's a new player I haven't covered yet. 390k last year, but this year he's been kind of butchered. He's down 2 ratings, he's -5 shooting, and he's also minus stats everywhere. On top of that, I think the hype around using Neymar is kind of dying off. So I'd say he's gone from about 390k, and I think he's down to about 250k this year. Leao, we've already covered 170, Son 170. Be interesting to know if you guys would prefer to use Leao in your team or Son in your team. I'll be honest, I'd probably just take Leao. For the same, well, it's a hard one. It is a very hard one. If you got one untradeable, which one would you take? But yeah, we move on to Tonali, 80k. Salah, 300k was at the beginning of last year once he went back into packs. So I think 300k this year. I don't see too much of a difference. This is an interesting one. They priced Theo Hernandez at 350. Well, Theo Hernandez last year was only worth 120. And the most expensive defender last year was Virgil van Dijk at 260. So do I think that Theo Hernandez is going to be 110k more than the most expensive defender last year in terms of gold cards? Obviously, we had Heroes Icons. I really don't think so. I don't think he goes from 120 to 350. I understand he's had a massive buff to his card. He's got a playstyle now. He's now got more pace. He's now got more physical. And obviously French aren't lacking in terms of demand. But I don't think he goes from 120 to 250. I think he maybe goes 200, just sub 200. I can definitely see him being up 80k, but I can't see him being up again 230k. I think that's just an insane price increase there. Again, that's where I think the pricing's wrong. Virgil van Dijk, not quite sure why they're going price at 400 because again he was 260 last year. I don't see why he would be 260 this year. Another insane price, 350k from Saliba, who was 50k last year. And so now he's got the meta playstyle. Obviously he's had a big rating increase, hasn't had a big stat increase. And I'll be honest with you, so Varane last year had the exact same playstyle, had give or take the exact same stats, was 2 ratings lower, and was only 100k. Now I think because there's hype around Saliba getting that big upgrade, I do think he can be more than Varane of last year, but I don't see him being any more than 150k, let alone 350k. I think that's insane. Because of course Van Dijk's also very proven when it comes to being the meta in the game, whereas Saliba's card, I guess yes, maybe some of his evos last year just isn't as proven. As a result, I don't think you can guarantee him being 350. I think that's insane. Cancelo, again, we think is only going to be about 15, and Edison coming in at 30. Meaning this team, I think, is quite well balanced. Obviously, he's got more expensive offense than he does defense. But again, I think that's the most enjoyable way of playing FIFA. I've got 1.7 million coins, which comes in the most expensive team I've been linked so far. We now move on to this team. This team's quite interesting because I never knew Tuchel got the second player position of centre back. But I don't think that does anything for his price because he's got 73 pace and the La Liga is absolutely dripping in centre-backs. I'd say one player I've not been linked in the 70 teams I've been sent. No Rudigers. I've not been sent a Rudiger whatsoever. Talking about there being a plethora of La Liga centre-backs. Same with an Eder Militao. No one has sent me a team of Eder Militao. I guess we are still talking about starter teams, so maybe that's why people have held off using those cards. Well, yep, 80k on Nico Williams. We covered this in the last video. Rafinha last year was 60. Rafinha last year was 40. Nico Williams has a playstyle plus and is probably more hype than Rafinha was last year, so I can see him being double. Say maximum 15k, Osherman 30, which means in total this team should come in at about 160. Move on to this team, new players. Sommer we haven't covered so far, should just be about 15k SBC fodder. Cole Walker, 100k. Odegaard, I'm not quite sure where they priced Odegaard at 100k because Odegaard last year was SBC fodder. He was about 17k. Yes, he's got a +2 rating, but that just means he's now 25k SBC fodder. Foden, I'm not too sure about the 200k. Bear in mind he's got quite a comparable card to last year's in Cuckoo, who was 70k. Martinez again was also SBC fodder last year, and I think he's only about 5-10k more than SBC fodder this year. And again, I'll be honest with you, I really don't rate them. I understand their pricing is probably using algorithms, so it's not. It's not like they've got like an educated opinion on each one. They've just thrown them into an algorithm. But some of these pricing are just all over the shop. I have this team as a 650k team. I think it's quite nicely balanced. Wouldn't really be a massive fan of using Bastoni, but I imagine that's the hard link via Barella and so on. But yeah, 650k in this team. We then move on to this one. Quite nice. A few new players here. We've got Una Batale, I think should be about 5k, nothing too crazy. Kimpembe should basically be 5k, really nothing interesting on that card. Patrick Garach, this woman last time was, I think, 40 to 50k. I've got it down at 30k this year. Hey, if the Barcelona women's and the La Liga women's are as hype, maybe she's 50k like she was last year, but I just can't see that hype fully carrying through to next FIFA. We then move to Alvarez. Well, if Correa every single year is 20k, I don't see why Alvarez with a better card, a bit more hype around him with a playstyle plus isn't going to end up being about 30k, maybe 35k. We then move to Kolo Muani, who should be 20k, although if he goes and fits that first Evo, I think he's 25k if he doesn't fit the first Evo. If he fits that first Evo, he's about 50 to 70. I'd say he'll be the most popular, if not the second most popular player to Rashford, if everyone who is expected to be able to fit the Evos fits the Evos. And again, some people will think it's great for 25k to 50/70k. We got to understand these cards are very, they're very rare for their rating. Bear in mind he'll be an 82 rated card. It'll be a bit like Mendy, where Mendy's super expensive yet low rated. And that'll kind of be the thing for Kolo Muani, but the demand for him would be insane. So again, I think fits the Evo, 50 to 70. Doesn't fit the Evo, 25k. With all my pricing, I've gone off the presumption that none of these guys fit the Evos, because otherwise your, 150k Prem team with Rashford is now a 350k team. So, yeah. Now moving on to the next team. This is quite this I thought was quite interesting. Sorry, last team was 230k. This team's quite interesting. I had no idea Abdul Hamid had moved to Roma. So good on Saudi Arabia, because it's quite rare for Saudi Arabia to actually exit the Saudi league. So I guess good on him, and I do wish him well. Well, apart from that, the team should be very, very cheap. This is like a classic star team, but it's like a team you'd be very surprised if you don't go and outgrow it. No one in this team is going to be worth more than maybe a few K. Maybe Abdelhamid would be the most expensive, being a high-paced Serie A right back. But apart from that, I'd throw this team happily at about 10, 15k, 20k if you get very unlucky. But there's a lot of plebs in this team, which I can't imagine would be too fun playing against some top-end teams. We now move on to this team right here. Schlotterbeck got a nice little upgrade, but still probably only going to be about a 10, 15k player at most. Emre Can, 10k player again. It was about 10k last year. Should have the same sort of demand this year. We then move on to Watkins. Again, I don't see him really being much more than 10k. You look at a lot of the plebby strikers last year, and they just really weren't coming over 10k. And I think Watkins is going to be that. I mean, he's probably boasting, what, 3-star skills, 4-star weak foot. I don't think that card's going to be very demanded whatsoever. This team basically is all values carried via Rashford at 70 and Diaby at 50. Maybe Udogie at 20 there. So the team coming in at 180. Now moving on to this team. Upamecano coming in about 12k. Lima, new card, should be about 10k, same as last year. Adeyemi got up to about 35k last year. He's had a bit of a downgrade. I don't think Adeyemi is as hyped going into this FIFA. I'd say going into this FIFA, we're kind of looking at Nico Williams. You know, look, Nico Williams this FIFA is kind of this versions of Adeyemi, so I think he's not going to be about 35 like he was last year. He'll probably be closer to 20 to 25k. Again, I think 6.5k is a severe undercut. Bear in mind, the fastest players in FIFA are normally very expensive. Along with that, he does have a playstyle plus. So I've got this team coming in at 180k. Now move on to this one, the first team we see with Frimpong, which is quite interesting, but Bundesliga teams just aren't that popular. Frimpong last year came in about 20. He actually has had a pace downgrade and a rating upgrade, so I think he's probably just about 25k, if there is any difference. Goretzka, I don't know what's happened to Goretzka, but I remember this guy getting better and better and better. Well, if he came from Schalke, if I'm not wrong. My lord, down to 70 pace, down to 83 rating. My child, what have they done to you? Well, he was actually only worth 50k last year with a 85 rated card with 76 pace, and I think that's going to get absolutely slammed down to about 20k. Because that card is just very undesirable. Then moving on to Sabitzer, I think he's probably about 5k, kind of all-rounder. A little bit like Chan, minus how linkable he is. We then move to Tell, probably about a 3 to 5k. He's just a French striker, probably for the first Evo, but I can't imagine he's people's first choice with the likes of Colomini and so on. Schaller as well, and it's kind of opened my eyes a little bit. If you want to go and use high-rated, semi-decent cards, use Bundesliga Women. Because no one uses Bundesliga Women, because, I don't know, they use all the other Women's League apart from Bundesliga Women. You can get away with some really high-rated, decent cards. Like last year, you could have got Schuller, you could have got Pajor, I think Dal Lama was another card. Obviously, I wouldn't be the biggest fan of using the women in the defence, because obviously they kind of get dominated with the physicality of some of the bigger men. But in the attack, obviously, their agility and their pace can be utilised quite nicely. Swiftly on. The team, I think, will be about 80k. Next one, again, kind of where this system's a bit flawed. Ter Stegen should only be about 25k, not 250. Balde should only be about 5. Araujo, 100k. Again, new player, I think it was 80 last year. He's received, I think, a +3 pace, maybe a -1 downgrade, but I think he should be demanded. Conde still 170. The Gruffalo, last year she got up to, have I not put on it? No. Last year she got up to, I think it was about 60. If there's as much demand for the Barcelona win this year, 60 again. If not, I'd say about 40. She has got a playstyle plus change from FLAIR to, what's that called, like blocking, sort, not block, but it's the one where you shimmy across, basically. We then have De Jong, 70k, same card as last year, probably same demand as last year. Valverde, likewise, was a 400k card last year, should be a 400k card this year. But Matip was a 300k last year. Again, if the demand for Barcelona women isn't as good, she's probably down to about 220, 250. But if it is as good, she'll probably be up about 300. I'd say she's had an increase in rating and stats, but I think that can be traded off with a potential decrease in demand for the Barcelona woman. Rafinha, should be 30k, slightly less demand than last year because Nico Williams kind of replacing him with the best La Liga right wing. Yamal, again, I think is 5k. I think he is complete. If you're using 400k Valverde, this person better be Yamal himself, because using him, he's going to be about 5k and his card's abysmal. But, you know, maybe it's, yeah. Maybe it's you, Mal. Then we go on to Griezmann, who should be about 120k, meaning it's a 1.3 million coin team. Again, a 1.3 million coin team where every position is banging, apart from Yamal. It just seems crazy to me. We then move on to the next team. Nothing too crazy to cover here. All players have been covered. Doku should be about 10-15, dropping very fast though. Ronaldo 40, and again Edison 30. The team there should come in at about 110k. Move on to this team. Martinez, I think it's going to be a great value for money card. I think it's going to be close to SBC fodder, but yeah, be a good card. The problem with this team is it's a little bit imbalanced with Udogie being about 20k, and then the rest of the team kind of being really cheap apart from Martinez. But yeah, team will come in to about 85k. Next team, again, quite a cheap back line, but then you've got 80k Chiesa, 30k Gokares, making this team 160k. We then move on to this team here. Again, very expensive back line with 50k from Van der Ven, 10k Vicario, 25k from Frimpong, another 20k from there Udogie, 80k there from Chiesa, and this team should come in at 280. We then move on to this team, one of the first teams throwing in a bunch of the NWSL player. In fact, again, haven't had a team with someone linking me Smith yet. We've got a few of the other WSL players down the line though. So, what do we have here, which is new? Dunn. Dunn last year was, I think, about 10-15k, if I can find my notes. But if people aren't using WSL, it should be a lot cheaper. But yeah, about 15k for it. Lavella last year was SBC fodder, which is interesting, because obviously she doesn't have a bad card, but I guess there's more favourable NWSL women, so I've got her at about 10k. And Williams last year was discard. So in total, the team should be about 150k. I think there were better strikers, better left wingers when it came to NWSL, so people weren't using Williams, despite her not having a bad card. We then move on to this squad, and again, Foden was 70. I don't think there's any players we haven't covered already. So, yeah, 450k there. Again, covered all these players already, 180k. Quite balanced, I'd say, with how expensive the defence midfield is. I did a little bit of research into James, and I think James's card's just been butchered so much. Like, every year it seems to get worse, but he always holds about 7 to 10k. Well, I think potentially the final straw to break the camel's back or something like that. 78 pace, you know, with Cal Dogu joining the league, with the Lords card having a lot bigger of an upgrade, I think he's just going to be about 2k right back in compared to previous years when he's normally about 10k. So, yeah, there's this team. This team is 180, I believe. We then move on to this team. Let me just make sure what the next team is. Yeah. We then move on to this team. Alvarez 30. Nothing new there. So we've got this team down as 170. Regarding how balanced it is, yeah, I'd say it's quite balanced across all the lines. This person sent me a 10k team. Yeah, I mean, as long as Demori doesn't fit an SBC, this is literally just going to be a discard team. It's definitely interesting, but it's hard to believe you'd have too much fun being battered in divisions and foot champs, but each their own. Who am I to judge? We then move on to this team. Loads of new players. Well, because no one has linked me a 1.4 million coin icon in their starter team. Hard to believe. This guy did say he really likes Gamboa, so fair enough. Gamboa, I want to say he played for like Sunderland or Newcastle. Controversial, but Cobble should be about 15k. Davies took a bit of a hit this year in both rating and he lost his quick step, which means I think he goes down from about 70-80k down to about 50k. In the end of the day, he's got 95 pace. He plays for Bayern Munich. He's got that, which is probably his main stuff. But yeah, it took a rating decrease and a pace decrease. Forlan should be the same as he was last year, 400k. No significant difference in power shot meta. And likewise, Boetchigueno being 1.4 million, the same as last year. I don't see any reason for that really to change too much. Coman also was 50k last year, did lose rating, did gain rapid, so again I think he stays at 50k. This team in general should be almost exactly 2 million coins. Musiala, sorry, I haven't covered him yet. Musiala was 70k last year. He has he has had a rating increase. I think he had a dribbling decrease, which was interesting. So I don't know if his cards has really been upgraded too much. But yeah, 70k, same as last year in my opinion. Brings his team to exactly 2 million. We then move on to this team. Again, we've covered all players apart from Ricardo Carvalho. Without Ricardo Carvalho, this team is 180k. Ricardo Carvalho should be about 120k going off of what it was last year, meaning the team is almost exactly 300k. Regarding how balanced it is, I'm not quite sure how it lines up. I presume it's a 5 at the back. But yeah, it's a bit crazy with 120k in Carvalho, you know, 30k from Gokares, 80k from Tonali, but then you're using 2 Liganos. questionable centre-backs. That's always the problem with the Liga NOS teams. Moving on to this team right here. A few new players. Kimmich should just be SBC fodder at 10k. Sane, I was quite surprised that Sane was only 12k last year. Received a slight upgrade, but if it was 12k last year, there isn't a crazy upgrade. I think he's only probably about 15 this year. Team comes in about 220. I'd say it's quite nicely balanced. Obviously, Reece James seems to be letting the Reece James and Mark Gehe a bit questionable, but apart from that, quite nice and balanced. We then move on to this team, which is 150k. Again, Gokrez going to hard carry Lamau and Torres. Midfield's a bit... It's just always a bit questionable. I mean, St. Jude's really not looking too bad. Quite an expensive defenders, bear in mind the amount of Plebby players. The problem is, at what cost do you fit some of these Liga NOS players into the teams? Maybe Renato Sanchez is going to have the classic sort of like, plays better than his stats, but yes, at what cost do you put the Liga NOS players in your teams? It's a bit all over the shop here in my opinion, but yeah. Team should come in at 150k if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Then move on to this team. Again, cheap back line. Camavinga probably comes in about 15k. Cole Palmer comes in about 15k, and Endrick comes in about 5k, making this team nice and cheap. Don't know if it's exactly the best in the world, but 50k for this team. We then head to this team. Again, quite a lot of players we've already covered. Saar should be about 5 to 10k. It was interesting because Saar actually was in the beginning of the game, then got taken out of packs after day 1. So we don't actually know what her value would be, but as an 83 rated, 90 pace. I mean, doesn't she have skills and weak foot? Yeah, 4-star skills, 4-star weak foot, French striker. Could be about 5 to 10k. Rodman's the only other card I haven't covered in previous videos. She should come in about 60k just like last year, unless the demand for the NWSL has significantly dropped off. Dybala, in my opinion, should be about 70k. They probably won't have a very good price on him because he was in Team of the Week 1, therefore they didn't know his price, but yeah, I think it was about 50, 60k when he came back in packs, and that was obviously after a week of not being in packs, so we don't know what his first week value would have been. In total, I have Spinazzola. I don't think it's going to be much more than a discard. In total, this team should be 260k. Then move on to this team, including, I think it's semi-balanced. Obviously, Neymar coming in at 250, Rashford 70, and DRB 50, carrying quite a lot of the price there, but coming in at 450k. Then move on to this team, 140k. I don't think there's anything we haven't covered already. Centre-backs are looking a little bit ropey unless pace isn't too big of a deal. Although I guess the full-backs do cover in terms of pace. This team should be coming in at 140k, if I'm not wrong. Then move on to this team. Another nice budget team there. Pace all across the back line. Is this guy... He's 6 foot. Just I know he's SBC solution. Prime. We've got Mahrez. Mahrez should only come in about 7k because he'll be SBC fodder yet again. But yeah, quite a nice team, especially if you don't mind having a few players on 2 chemistry. So this team should be 130k. This team right here is basically all discard apart from Gokrez, meaning the team is coming in at 50k. Yeah, the whole team, that means quite a nice discard team, to be honest. I mean, if you wanted, you could take out Gokrez and it's about a 20k team. But yeah, Gokrez kind of carrying the price there to a 50k team. On to the next one. Again, nice balanced team. Team comes in. Karl Dogru, I think 7k is a really good price prediction on him. Yeah, I mean, I think Pulisic is about 10k. Martinelli, I think, comes in at about 20k, meaning the team should be about 80k. Next team, 150k I've got down for this one. 20k of that coming from Nuno Mendes, 10k coming from Unai Simon. Again, 80k coming in from Nico Williams. So Nico Williams kind of heavily carrying that 150k team. Then move on to this team. Declan Rice is a new player. Only thing is about 15k. He was fodder last year. I think it's fodder this year. There's so many of these run-of-the-mill Prem centre mids. I mean, Arsenal have just signed Moreno, who practically has the exact same card. Team should come in at about 170k. Next team, next team comes in at 200k. Yeah, I mean, it's looking quite weak down the right. Let's just hope you're going to attack down the left side with your Doogie, Van de Ven, Nunez, Rashford, I guess Gokrez, because your right side's looking a bit of a filler. But yeah, this team should come in at 200k. Next team, I guess it's just a Rangers fan and enjoy using. I mean, how good's the Rangers team looking? Do you know what? It's probably as Rangers teams have come, it's not looking too bad. The lack of golds, which is quite surprising. I imagine Celtic have got a lot of golds, just saying. But yeah, 10k right there. We then move to this team, and the team is literally all cheap, apart from LaCroix. Without LaCroix, it's about a 25k team. 5k Molina, maybe 5k Hendrick, 5k Inaki Williams. Apart from that, nice and cheap. Bear in mind, Van der Ven had a 78 rated, 88 pace card last year, and that was 20k. I think LaCroix comes in about 15, 20k. So with the LaCroix, it's a 45k team. Without LaCroix, it's a 25k team. We then move on to this team, which should be a 25k team. About 15, 10k coming from Nunes, 5k coming from Gakpo, and the rest you can have for free apart from Konate for 5k. We then move to this team. Again, nice balanced team, nice balanced midfield, forward and defence. Oblak, weirdly enough, they have a correct price for goalkeepers. But yeah, 25k there, 30k on Llorente, 20k on Breme, 60k on Tomori, 5k there, 50k Barella, 10k on DePaul, 70k on Dybala, 25 on Martinez, 80 on Nico, leaves this team being 380k. Then move on to this penultimate team, semi-interesting I guess. Covered every player. Bruno Fernandes should only be 20k. Again, he's literally just Premier League midfielder. There's so many of them that even though he's got 4-star skills, 3-star weak foot, and a playstyle plus, he should just be fodder. Chiesa coming in at 80. Nor should be about 30, maybe tops of 50 because he's a new hero, but I'll be honest with you, I can't imagine the new hero carrying this card. I mean, I guess he's got 80 plus every stat par defending, but it's hard to believe they carry that squad. But yeah, 360k on this squad. Obviously, if Rashford's a Evo, then I think it's 550. And then ending off with this nice little 75k squad. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's quite balanced. I'm not quite sure about a roller, but he's probably used for fodder used for links somewhere down the line. But there we go, last squad there, 75k. And that is every single squad between the last video and this video that I've sent you. I'd say it took absolutely ages. I'll show you what goes into each of these videos. Basically, I make a Google Docs and I can put all the prices of the squads and then I put all the notes about the players. So a lot does go into these videos. So if you haven't made it this far, if you could drop a like and a subscribe, that'd be great. Again, if I haven't covered your squad or you would like me to cover your squad, just head over to easy.sbc and then there'll be a comment pinned where you can go and send me the team either via Twitter or via email. But thank you very much for watching and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.